Welcome to another Demarcation Media model kit review, or action figure review, because this is kind of both, I think, but I'm not totally sure. This is the Yolopark AMK series Optimus Prime, specifically from Rise of the Beasts. That's where all the art comes from. That's where it's Rise of the Beasts Optimus Prime. This is really interesting to me. First of all, never ever heard of Yolopark before. Didn't even know they were a thing, but apparently they've been a thing for a little while. But King Kaiju over on Discord told me about this line. And I've been looking for a good, Transformers line for a bit. I'm just not a fan of the official Transformers figures at all. I think that they look pretty crummy most of the time because they're trying to do both robot mode and transform into a vehicle mode. Personally, I just like the robot mode. If I wanted a toy of a car or a model of a car, I would just get a model of a car or a model of a truck. The transforming feature, it's cool in theory, but it just ends up making one or the other look good and then the other one look bad. Typically, the vehicle looks fine and the robot mode looks weird. So I was wanting one that didn't transform, and then along came this. All of my research beforehand had kind of just left me hanging because there's a ton of options out there if you don't mind buying the big giant figures and spending a couple $100s a piece. Didn't want to do that, and here we are. So, box art is honestly a bit busy. It does look like the stuff that I see in stores, like the official Transformers stuff. I mean, this is official. It's licensed by Hasbro. It's got all the I don't even know what you call it, all the stuff that shows that this is official. Got the Transformers here, got some renders of Prime. It looks a little odd, but not too bad. We've got a Yolopark sticker there. We have the Rise of the Beasts logo here. Another Prime picture here. Same here. And then around the back, we get all the details. We can kind of see how the model kit goes together. Get a couple shots of Prime himself, and then a bunch of stuff that nobody ever reads, and a bunch of stuff that I can't actually read because it's in Chinese. Then there's also all their social medias, some of which I don't recognize, and I wonder if they're China only. So yeah, box is eye-catching, but it looks a bit busy to me. That's, yeah, not bad though. I think it does its job really well. The box, however, is not the most important part. The most important part is the contents of the box. So let's go ahead and get this open. Like so. It definitely feels more like an action figure in terms of its setup. The way this box is made, the way it's presented, feels more like an action figure so far. Yeah, definitely huge action figure vibes. Oh, there's some instructions in there. This box is actually fairly thick too. So yeah, it's just not a typical model kit. We have stuff that we need to put together, but they're not on the sprues. They're not needing to be cut apart and sanded. It's just, you don't need to do all of that. Also, it tells you all of the rotation angles of the joints. That's crazy, actually. That is not something I've ever seen from an action figure or a model kit. This does not want to come off, and I'm really afraid of sending parts flying. Good grief. Okay, I don't think I lost any parts doing that. Yeah, so there's his parts. He's got a bunch of hands. He's got partially taken apart. Honestly, this feels like they wanted to make an action figure, but they also had a price point that they wanted to hit, and they needed to make him come disassembled to save some work. That's what it feels like. And honestly, I think that's genius. I'm totally on board with that. So let me go ahead and put this guy together. I feel like I could probably do it without instructions, but they do provide instructions. And then we're going to take a closer look. Alrighty, there he is, out of the box, all put together. And I gotta say, first impressions are slightly mixed. The detail on this guy is utterly insane. Like, not even joking, this is insane. Also, his size, we'll do some actual size comparisons in a bit, but like, here's a mega figure. He's big. The things that jumped out at me as not great right off the bat is his joints are inconsistent in terms of how they feel. There are some on here that are way too tight. There are some that are way too loose. The knee joint here was so loose that if you held him like this, it would flop. However, it is a screw, which means that one was a super easy, just tighten it up. But some, like the joints up here, this one in particular, that one's pretty darn loose. And the head, for example, is really tight. So there's that. The plastic quality feels mixed to me. It feels a little bit more along the lines of Joy Toy maybe, but like a little bit harder. Not the best in the world, but also not straight up just cheap. The paintwork is pretty darn good. Color separation is pretty darn good. So yeah, right off the bat, a little bit of a mixed bag, but the level of detail is honestly mind-blowing. And there's a lot of interesting engineering that goes into this. So let's get in a little closer and I'll try to show you what I'm talking about. So first off, the head. The head is the most important thing here, in my opinion, because if the head is done wrong, then the whole figure is kind of garbage. The head is not done wrong here. It looks pretty good. The mask is done pretty well. I feel like maybe there should have been some color separation between like the backs of the eyes there or whatever, and then the mask, but it looks pretty good. There's a ton of molded detail on the mask. The silver has a really nice finish. Got the molding all the way around to the back. The neck is the only point here that I'm like not totally sure about. They made the peg long so that you can get some good poses out of it. Like you can get all the way down and whatnot. A little bit of side to side here. That's really tight, and the silver paint goes all the way down onto the ball. So as I'm moving it, it is scratching off, which that in of itself is not a problem. It's just, it makes it really, really tight. The base of the neck, you can see, also has some articulation. It seems to be on a ball joint as well because it can move all directions, but it won't turn too far because it is limited. So that's kind of nice. Not totally sure if it was necessary, but it's nice. We got some silver up on the shoulders there. Around the back, look at this. This is pretty much just molded detail. He's got his like spine column thing, and it kind of appears to move because of the way that they've set this up. Doesn't really gap all that much. There's so much detail, so much detail. That continues down. The butt flap here kind of can hinge a bit. Rotation here. It's a bit blocked by the back of the figure itself, but there's a little bit of movement there. Detail all the way down. Like literally, this is, you will not be wanting for detail with this guy. There's the tires too, and they spin. There's lights there. We've got a little bit of printing for screws and the little like angle there. There's all the belts molded in. Shoulder has the Autobot symbol on both sides, and the chest has the print for the kind of, I don't even know what you call those, the shielding sections, and then the windows. They're not translucent like in the film, they're just black. However, I don't think that's really a problem. And then there's more silver on the chest. The box does show these being yellow, like on the renders, but they are not yellow here. So looks-wise, this guy utterly knocks it out of the park. Just above and beyond. And for the size too is really, really, really good. Articulation wise, from what I can tell, it's pretty good. Like, and it's not just normal, simple articulation. Like, we've got moving parts in the bicep to do that. This piece here hinges, so you can get a full bend pretty much because of the shifting parts. This can hinge up to get out of the way for this. Unfortunately, this joint is fairly loose. That's a bit of a problem. Look, you can do that. So he can get all the way up to here. There's also a bit of a swing out like that. I don't think it's entirely necessary, but there's a rotation on the swing out like that, and then an extra rotation. Not really sure why that's necessary, but they put it there. The swing out on this side is a bit loose, but you can pull it out on both sides. Same deal on this side. This is a tight joint. This bicep swivel is very tight. Some of the joints have screws that you could tighten up. Not all of them do. For the ab crunch, you have bend back, bend forward. That's pretty good. Let's see, is there any more? That's about all that we can get. We can get a rotation side to side, which is pretty much all you'd need there. This is separately like ball jointed, so that can really get out of the way. And he can hinge forward, not very much like that, but then he's got like a swing forward, so he can get up pretty far. Got a swing forward on this side too. That is also a screw, so you can tighten that, which is good because that's an important joint. This bends like so, and then collapses in a little bit more, so you could get like that much of a bend, and it doesn't really get ugly because the parts shift with it. The ankles have this big rocker and forward and back, plenty of movement, and then it's got a toe hinge, which I personally don't like toe hinges. I think they cause more trouble than they help with, because a lot of the times if you put all the weight of the figure on the toe hinge, it'll sag. Don't really know how that will work with this guy, but it doesn't. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of them. The ankles are a little loose, especially this one, like side-to-side rocker. That may or may not affect his posing, because he might want to sag a bit. So articulation, you really can get all the poses you need out of him. It's just inconsistent in terms of like which joints are tight, which joints are loose, which joints do I need to tighten up, which joints do I need to loosen up. It's just inconsistent, and I don't really love that. So what does this guy have in terms of accessories? Well, he's got a pair of open hands like that, one for each side. He has a pointy finger hand like that, and he has a, whoa, come back here, a trigger finger hand and no gun. That's honestly cruel. Like, I don't know much about Yolopark, so I don't really know what their original plans were for this figure, but including a trigger finger hand and not including a actual gun is just mean. Like, that's just mean. Also, this piece just fell off. Oh, wait. You can expose more of the screws. Interesting. So that honestly makes me wonder if there's any pieces I could remove up here to gain access to this piece. Some of them are just metal pins, so you can't tighten that up, but some I think you could. So interesting. I do like the fact that there's screws. But yeah, let's try on some of his hands. Pop. Let's give him the pointing hand like that. That's a very Optimus Prime accessory. I like that. Fits him. And then let's give him a open hand. Like so. The hands themselves look pretty nice. They are molded pretty well. The fists, I feel like, get maybe a little messy in some places, but not too bad. So yeah, in terms of like posing, I feel like you've got most of what you would need there. I don't really know what else you would need. Fists, open hands, pointing hand, This is utterly useless, but yeah, I think that's a pretty nice lineup of hands. I just really wish they would have given us more. Like, where are his blades? Where is his axe? Where is his gun? This would have been such a perfect figure if it had come with all that. So now let's talk about size. You saw this guy earlier. That looks so good. I'm honestly really excited about the fact that these look like they could be in a scene together. That's super cool to me. And we are going to bring in a Lego minifigure, one of the either loved or hated 212th Troopers. And then we are going to bring in a Black Series Clone Trooper. He is pretty much dwarfed. So let me put this guy up close so then you can see him like really side by side. He comes up right kind of below Optimus's shoulder. Here is a high-grade Gundam, like so. And then last, well, maybe not last. I might grab, well, no, yeah, this will be the last one for now. Here is the 1000 Toys Chief. Let me make him stand up straight. And even Chief is dwarfed by Prime. I mean, this is a big action figure, and Prime still stands a good head taller. So yeah, size-wise, this guy is pretty huge. Like, I was not expecting him to be this big. I was expecting him to be Chief's height or less. So yeah, this was very, very surprising to me. So then, before we wrap up, I wanted to talk about the price. The price of the AMK series figures. So here's what we get. This is what we get. We get the extra hands, we get the figure, we get an extreme amount of detail, some assembly required, joints are a little fiddly, for $30. $30. This looks like a $50 action figure. The joints don't entirely feel like a $50 action figure, but I could totally see this being $50, maybe even $60. The value feels pretty good. There are some joints that worry me in terms of like, will they break? Will they not break? So that part worries me. And then also, this is not something I guess that maybe many people think about, but I'm also thinking about what are the working conditions for the people that are building these things? Because it's pretty well done for the most part. It doesn't necessarily feel super cheap. So that worries me that the people that are working on these are not necessarily being paid enough, not necessarily being treated right. So that worries me as well. I may look into that a little bit more, see if there's anything about that. But for $30, this feels really fair. And that's the baseline price for all of them. So Prime is $30. Optimus Primal is $30. They've got Bumblebee. Bumblebee is also $30, even though Bumblebee is much smaller. And then I think they're doing Scourge and Cheetor and the Rhino dude. Rhinox, is that what his name was? So yeah, the line is going to be continued, and $30 feels really hard to complain about. Like, it feels hard to complain about the fact that we get the trigger finger and no gun. I honestly would have preferred them to just leave this out. If they had just left this out, it wouldn't have hurt to get it, but they put it in and it's just weird. So now it feels like we should have gotten some weapons, but for $30, it is pretty hard to argue. Well, there you have it. That is the Yolopark AMK series Optimus Prime. Hopefully I covered enough of the details on this guy because there's just so much. There's so much to see and fiddle around with on this dude. And like I said, for $30, it's really hard to argue with this. I do hope that as they continue this line, they get their joints a little bit more ironed out. I feel like the joints are the roughest part of this. But they still work so far. Obviously, I don't know how they will age. I don't know if any of them will break with time or whatnot. But it does seem like Yolopark has multiple avenues of contacting them if you need customer service. So that makes me hopeful that they would be on board with helping you replace parts if something broke. Like I said, the working conditions do worry me a little bit. Like, are the people that are making these being treated well? Because this is a really good toy, or a really good, honestly, display model for that cheap. So yeah, that is a concern of mine. Other than that, though, this guy, he's not perfect, but if you want a singular Optimus Prime figure, this might be the one to go for. When you're just straight up looking at him, the only thing that really stands out as weird is the fact that his neck is a little gappy. But once he's posed, it really doesn't show up that much. There's plenty of opportunity for painting extra detail and weathering this dude, which I'm probably going to do. I think that would be really cool. Yeah. Not really a model kit, though. It doesn't feel like a model kit. It's different. It's like, I don't even know what you really want to call it, but yeah, it's not quite a model kit. So I will put the link to the Yolopark store, their actual official store. I bought mine off of there. It took probably about 3 weeks to arrive just because they have like a week for processing and then it's shipped from China, so it takes a while to get over. But it shipped pretty well. Nothing really came damaged. So I'll put the link in the description and in the pinned comment. And I don't know, let me know in the comments below as well. Do you guys want to see me look at more of these AMK figures? Right now, there are 2 more that I could look at, and then more releases on the horizon. Let me know. I'm kind of dipping my toe into the Transformers fan base with these. So let me know if that's something you guys enjoy, and if you want to see more of it. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.